The Locked On Podcast Network presents the College Sports Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in college sports. From our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. Bringing you the real story. Why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The College Sports Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in college sports.
Kentucky basketball was down several players. They went on the road. They needed a win, and they got one.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
78-73 is the final score. Cats now 15-5, 4-3 in SEC play. Huge game for Kentucky beyond the arc. We said it coming in, and I continue to harp on the fact that this team, when they shoot the ball well, they're very hard to beat, and they needed to have a big-time shooting performance in this one. Look at what Kentucky did from beyond the arc, both volume and efficiency. 12 made threes on 24 shot attempts, good for 50% from beyond the arc. Tennessee, they made 11 threes, but they had to take 45 to get there, 24.4% for the Vols. We talked about it in the preview episode. This team gets a lot of their points from beyond the arc, and they'll let you take some too. And for the Cats here, it was very interesting how in the first half, Tennessee, we said coming in, they'll let you take a lot of threes. I expected them to try and maybe buck some of those trends, maybe run Kentucky off the three-point line a little bit. They didn't do that. They let Kentucky inside-out style basketball kick things out, let Almanor, let Jax, let Brea, they let them take threes, and Kentucky made them pay. This was the performance that we were looking for when we walked in this preseason and said, okay, this roster has shooters all over the place. You had three massive performances here from beyond the arc from Robinson, Brea, and Almanor. Again, we're going to continue to break this one down here on today's show. Again, thank you guys so much in the live chat. We're talking here about the three different big performances, and let's go ahead and dive into, I think, the biggest one here, the guy that I said had to step up the most, and that was Jackson Robinson. Jax obviously had a little bit of a shooting slump to start the year, but over the course of the last several games, he has lit it up from three. He was only 6 of 16 from the floor in this game, but 4 of 9 from beyond the arc. He also had 4 rebounds, an assist, and a block in this game as well in 34 minutes of play. Plus 20 in plus-minus box score. He was the second on the team in that category. This was so great to see Jax step up when Kentucky needed him to do a little bit more than run off ball. He ran the offense, I think, pretty well in this game. Again, not necessarily high assist numbers for the Cats here. We'll get to what Amari Williams did in this game in a second, but Jax still ran things pretty efficiently, I would say, and he obviously had those 4 threes go. Huge stuff from Jax. I'm super impressed with the way that he's kind of turned things around, and you can see he's got a little bit of his confidence going, which was huge to see in this game. Taking a look at the live chat here, Ito the F&D said, Lance, you should check my comment on your preview video. I called it Carr would play. We'd hit shots from the outside. We would win. And that's what I was saying in the preview episode is like, look, if Kentucky's going to win this game, it comes down to essentially one thing, and that's whether or not you hit those outside shots. Of course, again, Kentucky did 12 threes, and a lot of you are talking in the live chat about Amari Williams, which we'll go ahead and get to his performance here. Look, there have been a lot of different games here where Amari has just not played the way that you would like him to. He's not played as strong as you would expect a guy to play at his position. You expect a little bit more muscle. You expect him to dunk the ball when given the opportunity. You expect him to defend shots more consistently, and gentlemen, he did all of those things in this game. He had a double-double, 10 points, 15 rebounds, 13 of those on the defensive end of the floor. He also had 4 assists. Yes, he had 3 turnovers, but man, he had some really nice passes in this one. Again, some really nice rebounds, playing physical down low, boxing out, taking control of things, plus 20 in the plus-minus box score department, and this was the story of the game. It was Amari and Jax, and it was essentially your starting lineup. If you want to go and look at Stats Broadcast, you can actually go and look and see everybody's plus-minus box score, and you can notice that every single player that came off the bench tonight was negative. Every single starter was either even or positive, with Kobe Brea being the only person there at a net 0. That's what you want to see whenever you are shorthanded and you have to make adjustments and you have to put certain players in the clutch. They come and they play a lot of minutes and they go out there and they contribute consistently. Gentry says in the chat, here's hope Jax is okay, even though he was limping. He had some sort of issue there towards the end of the game. I think he's okay, especially considering the way that he was playing towards the end. I mean, he was moving around pretty okay. But yeah, it was really good to see him performing. Hopefully he is okay. Also, Gentry notes Noah was a huge spurt of energy, more of an impact than Perry and Chandler. And if you want to go actually look at the negatives here on the plus-minus box score, Colin Chandler -1 in 15 minutes, Trent Noah -1 in 9 minutes, but he was 2 of 2 from the floor, had a big rebound there in the early on, hit that 3 obviously in the second half at the top of the key. This is what you want to see out of your freshmen, coming in, providing valuable minutes, hitting shots when they're open. I was really impressed with the way that Trent played. Travis Perry -6 in 5 minutes, which again, I want to reiterate, try to play him as little as possible. They only played him 5 minutes in this game. I didn't think he would be able to come in here and make it work, and he honestly, he really didn't. But talk about players that kind of surprised me here, and that's Brandon Garrison, -16 in 16 minutes of play. He had 2 points, 2 rebounds, an assist, no turnovers, no blocks, no steals. But man, a weird game considering just how things have been trending for both Amari and Brandon Garrison. So yeah, just a really, really good all-around performance from the Cats. Owe took a hard fall too. Somebody notes in the chat, that's right. Owe had 14 points and 6 rebounds in this one. He was somebody that you expected to be, again, one of Kentucky's most consistent players on the floor in terms of scoring. He is not what you are looking for from beyond the arc. He's kind of struggled in that department as of late, but man, he can drive in and get you a lot of different buckets inside the paint. Obviously, you would have liked to see some of those jumpers go down, but unfortunately they didn't. He got to the line, 9 free throws in this one. If he had cashed in a little bit more consistently, maybe you see Kentucky close this one out a little bit earlier than they did. 16 of 24 from the line, 15 of 22 in the second half. This was an extremely uneven officiated game. I thought the officiating was pathetic, quite frankly. You don't often get to see all of this muscle, all of this physicality, all of this back and forth with no calls, and then you see these rebounds, or you see Ziegler try and drive, and he gets called for, or excuse me, he draws all of these bull crap fouls. I did not see what the officials were seeing tonight. Frankly, I thought it was pathetic, as it usually is. The crew was just not very good. But Kentucky was able to fight through it. They were able to play more defense without fouling in the second half. I was very, very impressed.
I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, comedy. Used to go to comedy shows all the time. Me and my friends in college used to go all the time. It's a blast. You don't even need, alcohol. You just go and have fun and laugh. It's a comedy show. That's the whole point. Just go have fun. Gametime has a new called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more near you. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime.
It was an absolute classic. Baylor fought till the end.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears.
Bears lose this one to BYU by 4 in overtime. And it's one that looked like it was over a lot earlier than it actually was. I hate saying this. I really hate saying this for a game that my team loses. But what an unbelievable college basketball game this was tonight. Like this was the very best of the Big 12 in terms of, atmosphere and shot making, and two teams that are desperate for a big win. Two teams that kind of understand the what is the word I'm looking for here? To understand how pressing this is to start getting some big wins. BYU certainly needs one. In fact, Baylor's get the St. John's win. BYU doesn't have that. And just high-end stuff, high-end shot making, unbelievable offensive display. Best I think we've seen Baylor offensively in a month and a half, maybe more, since they were playing high schools at the end of December, but they don't get the win. And at the end of the day, that is what matters. And so I'm sure a lot of you probably went through this as well, where, they're down double digits at one point and you're like pissed. Like I was pissed, man. I'm so sick of these scheduled losses that's been on the table for the last 2 years here. And then they fight back and they have opportunities to win the game and they throw a couple opportunities away, but they force it into overtime. They execute well down the stretch for the most part. And so you're kind of like, well, damn, what a fight though. What a fight. But at the end of the day, it's a loss. And so I talked about it kind of this whole week of, I hate the excuse making. And so I can't sit here and make the excuse of like, well, it was a hell of a fight. They lost. And I'd like to think that they're a better team than BYU. And they didn't beat them. And you still are living on that 8-9 line of the NCAA tournament. And that win, that buzzer-beating win in double overtime against St. John's in November is not going to get you into the tournament. You can't just have that alone. And so Baylor is still searching for that signature quad one win. I know, Cincinnati might be a quad one win. I don't know how to follow it anymore. But you know what I mean. That signature win over a ranked team where they actually look like a tournament team. BYU probably just got that with Baylor because I think other people think of Baylor more highly than we do, the way that they've been playing right now. But it's a loss. There were some good performances in there. There was some good fight, but they lost. And Rob Wright and VJ Edgecombe were outstanding in this game. VJ really from minute 1 to 45 was your best player. Rob was obviously tremendous down the stretch. Just the cojones on that kid, man. Like I said it with Hatch on the show earlier today of like he hasn't done anything to prove that he can't do it in a big time environment. And he went out there and did it in a big time environment again. Like the kid just doesn't back down from anything. That's a tough SOB right there. And it was okay the first 30 minutes of the game. And then he goes nuclear the last 10 minutes and almost drags them into overtime, offensively anyway, drags them into overtime by himself. Scores whatever, the last 10 or 12 points for Baylor in regulation. VJ was awesome tonight again. Like this is the VJ. Like this is the VJ Edgecombe that we were promised. We're getting it the last 3 or 4 games, specifically the last 3. He goes for 30, 21, and now 28. He's hitting threes out there. 6 of 8 from 3 tonight. This kid, he was a brick from beyond the arc earlier this year. And suddenly, before February, he's the best 3-point shooter on the team. 6 of 8 from 3. Jaden Nunn gave you some big baskets. I got to give it to him. Still wasn't a great game from him, but gave you some big baskets tonight. Let's stick with the positive right now in terms of who played well. And let's look at the BYU side. Obviously, Richie Saunders had some big ones down the stretch, but it was all Cannon Catchings, man. It was the Cannon Catchings show. I mean, 23 points, 8 of 8 from the floor, 4 of 4 from 3. The guy was absolutely perfect. Now, he only played 25 minutes out of 45, but he gave enough of a heat check to kind of keep Baylor at arm's length when BYU needed him to. And I mean, the kid was incredible. Like, I was genuinely thinking, I'm like, are we watching 2018 James Harden right now? Like, dude, without the foul baiting, like he was incredible in this game. You know, the freshmen played well for Baylor, but it's the old guys that I would want to step up in this game. And no one player lost this game for Baylor, but damn, Norchad Omier came close. I mean, I thought I was putting it lightly on Twitter by saying it's not one for the scrapbook. He was awful tonight. 12 and 8, but shoots 1 of 5 from 3, committing silly fouls. 2 of them were ticky-tack calls, but that last one where he fouls out is so stupid. Like, Demon did nothing in this game, and he's fouling him from beyond the arc. Like, what in the hell are you doing? And the first or second one he had in the game was the same thing. He's fouling a guy 35 feet from the basket. And Scott Drew's just like, use your head, man. And he had some good defense at times, but, I mean, he's 1 of 5 from 3. He's shooting a 3 when they're down like 5 or 6 in the final 2 minutes of the game. Just killing him, man. He's shooting shots from behind the backboard and turning it over. Like, he killed them tonight. Killed them. What is going on? I thought he had an illness a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. This is beyond that. This is like 5 bad games in a row for him. Have they figured him out? NCAA's active leading rebounder, and he gets 8 in 45 minutes. He had about 2 with 10 minutes left in the game. Regulation, anyway. He stunk tonight. Stunk. And he bailed them out. He bailed BYU out a couple times. Bailed Demon out in that overtime one I was just talking about. But my God, man. Just it was a net negative tonight. Just wasn't really good at anything. And missed free throws. How many missed free throws do they have? Norchad misses 2 in overtime. Massive free throws. Baylor ends up shooting 16 of 24 from the free throw line. What was Rob Wright? 8 for 8. Everyone else was 50%. Everyone else on Baylor's team was 8 for 16. Rob Wright, the freshman, the reclassified freshman, was the only one who had the balls to hit his damn free throws. 2 at the end of regulation to send this thing into overtime. The only one with nuts dragging on the floor. Because it's all mental. Everyone can hit free throws. But Rob Wright goes into the teeth of that environment and does it. And everyone else completely folds. 50% from the free throw line outside of your freshman point guard. Give me a break. That's a joke. And for some reason, this program, they can't freaking figure it out. They cannot hit free throws at the end of games. God, it's like your high school basketball team all over again. What in the hell, man? Get it together. It's like, it's just crazy. You watch this game tonight and you're thinking, the only 2 guys on this team with killer instinct are freshmen. Edgecombe and Wright, and that's it. So, yeah, it was good that they fought back into this game, and I love that they did, and they sent it to overtime, but they lost. And they probably should have lost by the way the game was going. 11 points down, 13 points down, but they also could have won that game because I think they're the better team. While they're not a great team, they're a better team, and they missed some crucial free throws down the stretch. It's just not an excuse. And again, to go back to where I started with this, I'm just so gosh darn sick of the excuses. I'm sick of them. And it's not just this year. It was last year, and it was 23 as well. Every time there's a scheduled loss, they lose. Oh, well, it's a tough road environment. Oh, well, we're a couple guys down. You've been shorthanded for 3 games now. You won the other ones. Like, how much better is BYU than Utah? They lost to Utah last week. So, like, that's not an excuse anymore. And let's face it, like, if that is your excuse that they're shorthanded, get used to it. This is the second time Jeremy Roach has been in the concussion protocol. Langston Love's been day-to-day for 3 years now. It's not getting any better. You're not getting any stronger. And yeah, you can say, oh, it's great that we won shorthanded against Kansas State and Utah. And then when you lose, it's, oh, we're shorthanded. Oh, it's a tough road environment. Oh, just another night in the Big 12. I'm so sick of it. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the scheduled losses. 2019, 2020, 21, 22. They didn't do that. They went on the road and they won those games. And I get we're talking about some of the greatest Baylor teams of all time when I'm talking about those years. But these teams the last 3 years are just as talented. But they're not putting it together. They went on the road and they won those games. And I get we're talking about some of the greatest Baylor teams of all time when I'm talking about those years. But these teams the last 3 years are just as talented. But they're not putting it together.
Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bet as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. Live betting lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field. And the app is easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's icing on the cake. One bet you can look at, $5. The NBA tonight, Kings head east to take on the Sixers. Even amid all the turmoil with De'Aaron Fox, FanDuel has the Kings favored by 7. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5. And if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59.
The Oklahoma Sooners added a big-time wide receiver commitment.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners.
The Oklahoma Sooners got a big commitment coming out of their junior day weekend. Daniel Odom, 4-star wide receiver out of St. John Bosco's High School in Southern California, Jay.
We got another kid out of California. That's the crazy part. So I know that we had some situations with the Matterdie kids, and it didn't seem like Oklahoma was going to have a chance to be able to pull anybody from out there again. And then Daniel Odom comes out of nowhere with this commitment. It was one of those that was honestly a surprise. He decided that, he enjoyed the weekend. And I had to go back and look. I was like, wait, is this his first time coming? Is this one of those situations where he got in and got so excited that he just wanted to commit immediately and potentially be something that fell off? No, he was here for the spring game last year. So this isn't his first time in Oklahoma. It wasn't his first time visiting. And it seemed like he was scouting it to see the opportunities. And Colin Kennedy from 247 dropped an article over there as soon as Illustrated. And one of the things he's mentioned was potential opportunity to play as a freshman. So he saw that a lot of freshmen play last year. And he's like, hey, if I come in there and I ball out, they may actually give me a shot.
Yeah, as Oklahoma rebuilds its wide receiver room with the departures of all those guys that left after the 2024 season, kind of the door's open for anybody, really. There's nothing definitive at the wide receiver position moving forward, aside from maybe Deion Burks. But even then, it was such an up and down season for him. I think all bets are off when you go beyond the 2025 season, even if Deion Burks isn't even here. You don't know who your starting wide receivers are going to be come 2026. So everything's on the table for this kid. Just looking at him as a player, 6'2", 190 pounds. Again, he was considered a 4-star prospect. Rivals had him as the number 25 wide receiver in the class. 247 Sports has him as the number 41 in the 247 Sports rankings, but in the composite, number 33, the number 25 player in California, which to me, that is intriguing right there. You're a top 25 player in the state of California. You're probably pretty good. You got a chance to watch some of his highlights. Jay, what did you think about the player?
Not only does he have the size, he has great body control. So he can get to the sideline, make those catches. He does the little stutters with his toes, but he also has enough breakaway speed to get away from defenders. It's funny because in some of the highlights on his huddle film, you could see him about to blow past a player. And, the defense is stepping back. You saw some situations where they even had to bracket him. And because my favorite part about him is his route running ability, he was throwing those players off when it came to where he was going to go. Saw him go in and he can't cut right back out real quick, catching fade passes. You see him, like I said, doing the two toes or one toes right there at the sideline. He made a one-handed catch in one of them. You can tell that he has really good body control and can get his body and contort it in certain ways to make catches that are really tough to make. And at his size and his frame, he comes in at about the exact same size as what Zion Kearney is. And he has a refined ability to run routes. And so what excites me is his ability to run those routes and then to separate the defenders. It looks like defenders are nervous about him route running them. Even though he doesn't look the fastest, they still respect him. And that's, to me, probably the biggest asset you can get out of a player is that defenses require themselves to respect him no matter what.
I really liked his hands. He's got really soft hands. And I think that matters for a wide receiver. He's not fighting with the ball in the air. He's caressing it. He's accepting the ball as it comes to him. He's not battling the ball. JJ Hester, great size, great speed. How many times in 2024 do we see him fight with the football? That was not the case with Daniel Odom when you go turn on the highlights. I think I agree with you with the route running. I think he does a really, really good job at setting defenders up for double moves. He does a really good job at the top of his routes, making the defender think he's going one way and then changing direction and going the other. I really liked his ability to fight through contact. So many times cornerbacks were just grabbing onto him because they knew they were beat, and it did not disrupt his balance. It did not disrupt his speed, his ability to get to where he wanted to be to make the catch. Really liked what he was able to do after the catch. He's a physical player, and he'll take a hit. I mean, there were several times in these highlights where he's getting blasted as the ball's coming to him and as he's making the reception, holds on to it, shows a lot of toughness, a lot of physicality. And I think that's what you're going to need. We saw it this year with the SEC, right? Nothing is going to be easy. There's not going to be a lot of easy routes to run against SEC cornerbacks, and referees a lot of times are going to let these guys play. You've got to be able to fight through hand fighting. You got to be able to fight through contact at the top of your stem and be able to continue your route and be in the spot that your quarterback expects you to be in to make the play. So a lot of really, really nice things out of Daniel Odom's game. I also, a lot of respect to the St. John Bosco offensive coordinator. He's not just relying on Daniel Odom's ability to win one-on-ones,
right?
Is scheming him open too, using, quote unquote pick plays to get him open in space and then let him make plays after the catch. So a guy that, again, can win in a lot of ways, and that's what you got to have at wide receiver. And I'm not going to say he's CeeDee Lamb. I'm not going to do that. But that's what you loved about CeeDee Lamb, right? Is that he could win in a lot of different ways. And if Daniel Odom is able to come and make that kind of an impact early on in his career, I think they've got a potential star in the making. But again, he's going to have to come and work and continue to develop and continue to fill out his frame and get stronger. But I like what he's got to work with just as a junior in high school.
Yeah, and he doesn't show any signs of being afraid of the work or the grind. Coming from St. John Bosco, that's a school that's a powerhouse that's known for churning out talent. And so obviously he had to work his way up there in order to get the opportunity. And I believe that coming here, he's excited about the chance to actually being able to compete and coming in and taking somebody's job. And the kid's skill-wise, he's got it. And the good thing is, too, as kind of talked about, Jaden O'Neal, the 26 commit quarterback that we have in the class, they played ball with each other when they were younger as a youth. So schools are right up the street from each other. They know each other very well. And I kind of asked Jaden about that. And I was like, hey, so did you know this was coming? He's like, no, did not. Talked to him at the airport. And then I was like, Oklahoma's got to be in your top 10, right? And he's like, yeah, they're in the top 10. And I went back and looked. Daniel had dropped a top 6, and Oklahoma was in that top 6 with Miami, Washington, Texas, Tennessee.
Oregon.
He had Oregon. He had your big programs on there. And I'm going to be 100% honest. When I saw that list, I was like, oh, okay, this is probably a NIL type situation. So it's going to be a bag. It's going to be definitely involved in this one. Then he committed here. So either A, we are one of the bag schools, or he really liked it at Oklahoma. But I think truthfully, he really enjoyed his visit. I know he's raved about it. The picture of him and BV talking in his office was cool. You could tell that there was engagement there. So I'm excited for him to come in. I know that people want to jump in the comments and say he's going to decommit or whatever just because people want to be negative this week or this year. But a lot of these kids do see the future, and they see the vision, especially with Ben Arbuckle talking about the way that he likes to use wide receivers in the offense. These players, all of them coming out of junior day, have talked about, they see the vision and they're excited.
Yeah, the Jaden O'Neal piece, I think that matters because we've seen how those long-lasting friendships can matter in a recruitment, whether it's Michael Hawkins and Devon Mitchell, whether it's David Stone and Michael Patterson McDonald. Like these guys, they're connected. And you could see Jaden O'Neal's excitement whenever the commitment came out. He quote tweeted it and shared his thoughts and enthusiasm for Daniel Odom and coming to Oklahoma. So it's a big time commitment. Again, he's going to have to get on campus and he's going to have to go earn a spot, but in a Ben Arbuckle system that's going to run a lot of 4 wide receiver sets, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for playing time for all of these wide receivers. So excited for what he brings. A guy that can play on the outside. I think that's where he's primarily going to be used, but can also line up in the slot as well. He's got a little bit of that flexibility to him because he's such a good route runner.